The moon. Today is the 28th of July, 2022, and I believe we have moon activity today. So I want to start out with this little cosplay of me. If you're familiar with Sayuki, this is Genjo Sanzo. Well, this is me cosplaying as Genjo Sanzo, the recalcitrant Buddhist priest. And yes, here we are for recalcitrant Buddhist priests. I want to wish everybody a good moon day. I forget if it's a new moon or a full moon or a sort of semi-crescent, whatever, blood moon with, I don't know, backlash of return to sender. But yeah, I thought I would come on here, because I haven't been around for a while, and say, hello, how are you doing? Yes, this is Natsuya Uesugi, and I think you've seen my little videos where we went crazy. We're actually not quite crazy. I didn't put any makeup on. I do have some nail polish on. That's it. But yeah, and my little transgender thing that I got. But yeah, so welcome to my world, and I hope, what I want to bring up today is that a lot of people are under stress right now. There's a lot of things going on, like gas prices and jobs and housing going up, and just tumultuousness in the world. But what I wanted to say today is, you know, it may look bleak and hopeless and horrible, you know, but there's always a silver lining there. You know, I know for me specifically, I'm going to have to make a decision shortly between staying in a specific place and moving because I can't afford it anymore. Because, you know, I'm crazy, I guess. So, you know, I'm going to have to make a decision. And I bring this up because of mental health, because there are people that make decisions between lodging, food, and medication, okay? And I am coming up on having to make that decision on, do I spend the money on my lodging, do I spend the money on food, or do I spend the money on medication? A lot of elderly people have to deal with this every day, and they literally have to make the decision between, are they going to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or are they going to eat anything? Do they have Meals on Wheels? Do they go for another day without food? Because they have to have their medication. And so luckily right now, you know, I still have a place to live. How long that's going to be, I don't know. But that's something else. That's my problem. I have to solve it. I'm not sitting here begging or anything, you know. I deserve housing like anybody else does. But I wanted to bring up that trans people, especially in housing, and that's one of the reasons I'm wearing this, are completely discriminated against, especially in shelters as well. So if you are female presenting, or if you have identification that is different than your, you know, how you present, that can be an issue. And I know, having had SRS, that, you know, it sometimes causes issues with housing and stuff like that. But that's my issue. I'm not asking for a handout or anything. I can solve my own problems. But what I wanted to say, you know, and sometimes it's difficult. I mean, life is not easy. But I do know that there's discrimination in housing, and that's a big thing. And especially if you add mental health on top of that, you know, that makes it even more of an issue. You know, not at all to speak about, you know, jobs and, I don't know, just anything in general, politics, I don't know. You know, all I know is that, you know, I'm going to have to make a decision soon about, do I stay in my fancy ass apartment that I could literally put 9 people in here, you know, easily, you know, with my, you know, I drive around a beater car and literally the paint is dripping off of it, and I think it's missing a hubcap last time I checked. you know, and at least I have a car, you know, so I need to like shut up and like remember, you know, that I am blessed and that I am lucky. And when it comes down to, you know, me making a decision between my medication, lodging, and food, well, what am I going to pick? So, I can live in a cheaper apartment. I can live in a shelter. I can live on the streets. And I'd rather actually go to the streets than have to go inpatient to some place that's going to, I don't know, restrict me and lock me down forever. Well, like I said, I just got out of the hospital. And so I had a little oops, go to the country club time. Okay? And so now I'm in a day program as a part of the transition back to, I guess, humanhood. You know, but there were certain things that were done to me during that time, and you know, the hospital was great. I'm not saying anything about that. That was an awesome place, you know, and they did all the wonderful things. Now, one of the places before that was a little questionable, and I think I mentioned something about that before. But it's very important that you follow a regimen, and one of the main reasons why I went a little to the country club is that you took the routine away from an autistic person and someone with ADHD, and that's very damaging. And if it's not done in such a way, it's going to cause an autistic meltdown, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, because I went into, you know, there was no eating, there was no sleeping, there was no time. So things like turn in your time card. You know, when time is blue, it's not linear. I got things to do. I don't care about a time card. I mean, I know it may be part of the system, okay? But when I've got to determine, you know, do I write this report and help, you know, somebody do something versus turn in a time card, the report is going to win, you know? Do I carry the old lady's groceries across the street because there's traffic and it's heavy versus do I don't know, go get a latte because that's what I'm supposed to do? Well, guess what? I'm going to help the old lady with her groceries across the street because that's worth more to me, at least. And that may be backwards. Okay, do I drive a car that's worth $500? Okay, that literally I have paid off. Okay, and has paint chipping off of it? Yeah, I mean, should I be driving some luxury BMW if I could afford it? Or some fancy Lexus or something? If I wanted to, but that's not important to me. I'd rather take that money and give it to Covenant House and homeless people and buy them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Okay? I just came from a hospital situation with people detoxing and other people who had, you know, mental health issues. I know my roommate was detoxing, I think, from something, or at least all 5 roommates I have. I have a problem with being able to keep a roommate. That's been a consistent thing since college, you know, but that's not the point. The point is, I was with people who were detoxing. I was with people who were alcoholics. There was one guy who was, you know, and I'm not going to mention his tribal affiliation, but there was one guy, he was really nice, you know, and he was there because, you know, he was detoxing from alcohol, you know, and where we were was in, you know, a place, you know, relatively close to tribal lands, you know, so it was available. At least it was available, you know, and I now know that, you know, okay, fine. So I'm going to have to make a decision between where I'm living, and I can live anywhere. I mean, I live in a 1-bedroom shack. I lived on you know, tribal lands and had to cart my water, you know, when the power went out because it was raining and monsooning and dirt streets in the mud, you know. But I've had it good. And of the time that I've been on the streets, it's been a very short period of time. That's why we write stories like Read-Only Memory. That's why we write stories, you know, about like the mini comic in grydscaen psycho dad manga about Rom and his day in the life of him on the streets, because it's important. Because when I have to make my decision about leaving this lavish apartment, okay, which I hardly even deserve, okay, that if I had the wherewithal, whatever, I put 9, I don't know, trans people in here with me, if I could do that, because it breaks the lease, but I'm not going to do anything illegal, But the thing is that some trans people can't even get housing because they're trans. I've been lucky, but I've lost jobs because I'm trans. I've lost opportunities because I'm trans. And that's not right. And states that don't let people change their name on their identification and their gender marker, you're getting people killed, okay? And I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to talk about that for as long as I can, okay? And like I said, if I have to make a decision between housing, food, and medication, I'm going to pick medication. Screw the housing. I'll go to the streets. Food, I can live, before I went to the hospital, I lived for 3 weeks without eating food? Yeah, okay, whatever, okay? What's right for me may not be right for somebody else, but I know that if I have to choose between being institutionalized forever, going to a day program, you can't do that. Even though, oops, you might want to think about that first. What? If I have to choose between being silenced and institutionalized, I will go to the streets. Because at least in the street, I am free. And at least in the street, I have a cell phone, and I can talk. And I will, from here until the end of time, stand up for mental health and for LGBT rights. Because guess what? I'm trans. And I deserve housing. And I deserve to be treated like a human being. And I deserve to have rights as a person. No matter what my religious affiliation is, no matter what my nationality is, no matter what my background is, no matter if I'm detoxing or bipolar or ADHD or autistic or whatever, it doesn't matter. I need to be treated like a person like everybody else. And I will stand up for as many covenant houses as I have to, bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to. Why did I become a street pastor? Because I can bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to the street. And it may not be an actual peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it may be a word that keeps somebody from slitting their wrist that night. And it may be a word that keeps somebody from doing survival sex for that night. And if I need to stand in front of the person who's standing there at the car window waiting, then I'll get in between that person and I'll hand them my last $5 bill, if that's all I have in my pocket. Because no one wants to go to the streets because it's fun. There are a lot of people with mental health issues on the street because they can't get housing. Wow. In my little country club visit, let's see how much housing I can get. This is Natsuya Uesugi, and I'm trans, and I talk about mental health. And one day, very soon, I'm going to have to make a decision between medication, food, and the streets. I didn't make this video for sympathy. I made this video for the trans boy down the street who has to lose his shoes because someone stole them. And to the trans girl who got kicked out of the shelter because they found out that she didn't have a piece of paper with the right gender on it somewhere when they were processing her paperwork. So now she doesn't have a bed. And I'm going to stand up for that preteen. And I'll explain this in my next video. I explained it to the counselor at the intake program at the LGBT AOP program. Okay, I'll explain this. about what taking away medical necessities for trans kids are. Let me do that now. So thank you. This is Natsuya Uesugi. I talk about mental health. Namaste.